Speed, Module 1, Lesson 2, Understanding Average Speed. Calculators are allowed in this lesson. In Lesson 1, we learn how to calculate speed, time, and distance given two of the quantities. However, in real life, the speed of an object, such as a vehicle, usually changes depending on traffic conditions. It doesn't stay constant towards the entire journey. It changes. So what we can do, or what we have to learn how to do, is to calculate the average speed instead. The objectives of this lesson: Objective 1, find average speed. 2, solving problem sums involving average speed. Now, to find average speed, we cannot add two different speeds and then divide them equally. We have to divide the total distance traveled by the total time taken. It is simply an extension of the DST triangle. So let's draw this triangle again, shall we? Let's draw this triangle. The same thing, DST, DST. Now, what is the extension I'm talking about? So now, let's say you want to calculate what? Average speed, right? Average speed is equals to total distance traveled over total time. Total time taken will be total distance traveled over average speed. Total distance traveled would be average speed multiplied by total time. That's it. It's as simple as that. It's simply an extension. All right, let's see how we can use this information and solve some problem sums. Question 1. Yani ran for 20 minutes at 12 kilometers per hour, then walked for another half an hour at 6 kilometers per hour. Find Yani's average speed for the whole workout. As you can see, there are two parts to the workout. And you've got to find the distance in both these workouts so they can work out the average speed. Let's begin with the first part of the workout. Step 1. What is the information given? The speed is 12 kilometers per hour. Let's write that down. The time taken is 20 minutes. We've got to convert that to hours, so it's going to be 20 over 60. Okay, 20 over 60 hours. So let's write down the age there, get into the habit of writing the units down. Okay, let's write down the formula for distance. Distance equals to speed times time. Plug in the figures. 12 times 20 over 60. 20 over 60, do the mathematics and you get 4 kilometers. So that's the distance covered in part 1 of the workout. What about the second part of the workout? Step 2. Okay, speed is 6 kilometers per hour. That information is given. Time is also given at half an hour. No conversion needed here. So we jump straight into calculating the distance, which is equals to speed times time. Plug in the value, 6 times half, and you get 3 kilometers, right? 3 kilometers. Now let's bring it all together now. Step 3, we put it all together to find the answer. What is the total distance traveled? That's easy, right? 4 kilometers in first part, second part is 3 kilometers. Do the addition, you get 7 kilometers. Total time taken, a little bit of working required for this one, 20 over 60 plus half. And then you get 5 over 6. Okay, you know how to do the addition, right? 5 over 6 hour. And now let's calculate average speed. Average speed, as we know from the triangle, is total distance over total time taken. Right? So it is total distance divided by total time taken, which is going to be 7 divided by 5 over 6. And when you do the mathematics, you get 8.4 kilometers per hour. Remember to write the units down, and that is your final answer. Well done. Let's move on to question 2. Question 2. On Monday, Uncle Lee drove from town A to town B, which were 365 kilometers apart. He drove at an average speed of 65 kilometers per hour for the first 195 kilometers of the journey. He then drove at an average speed of 85 kilometers per hour for the remainder of his journey. Find Uncle Lee's average speed for the whole journey. So let's begin with the first part of the journey, and that is going to be step 1. So what is the information we know over here for step 1? We know distance traveled during this leg of the journey, which is the first part of the journey, was 195 kilometers. The speed at which he traveled is 65 kilometers per hour. So let's calculate the time taken. The time is distance over speed, which is going to be, let's plug in the numbers, 195 kilometers over 65 kilometers per hour. When you do the mathematics behind it, dividing it into simple numbers, you get the final answer is 3 hours. Let's move on to the second part of the journey, the second leg of the journey. So what was the distance here? So what is the remainder of the distance? You take 365 kilometers, which is the whole distance, minus the first leg, which is 195 kilometers. You get distance for the second leg of the journey, which is 170 kilometers. At what speed did he travel? At speed is 85 kilometers per hour. So let's calculate time again. Time is equals to distance over speed, which is 170 kilometers over 85 kilometers per hour, which gives you 170 divided by 85 is 2 hours. Once you get to this part, you bring it all together in step 3. You bring it all together in step 3. Let's look at total distance traveled is 365 kilometers. Total D is 365 kilometers. Total time taken, total T is equals to 3 for the first leg, 3 hours for the first leg, 2 hours for the second leg of the journey, which is equals to a total of 5 hours. So let's set up the formula here. Average speed. Average speed is equals to total distance, total D, over total time taken, total T, which is equals to 365 kilometers over 5 hours. When you do the mathematics, 365 divided by 5, it is about 73. It is not about, exactly 73 kilometers per hour. That's your final answer for average speed Uncle Lee took. Question 3, students. On Tuesday, Uncle Lee drove from town X to town Y. He took 2.5 hours to travel 4/7 of the journey. After a 30-minute rest, he took another 3 hours to complete the remainder of the journey at a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. What was Uncle Lee's average speed? Slightly tricky, but a cool question, I think. The first part of the journey, as you notice, they have given the time taken, but distance and speed is not given. So we've got to start from the second part of the journey. Okay, so that is going to be step 1. We're going to start with the second part of the journey where the information is given, where enough information is given for us to calculate distance. The speed is 80 kilometers per hour. Time taken is 3 hours. From there we can set it up. Distance equals to speed times time, which is equals to 80 times 3. That is 240 kilometers. Now, once again, let's refer to the question. The second part of the journey covered is 3/7 of the distance. Why? Because the question states in the first part of the journey, 4/7 of the journey was covered in 2.5 hours. So now we have calculated 240 kilometers, which is 3/7 of the distance, of the total distance covered. So let's do step 2 and calculate how we can, let's figure out how we can calculate the total distance. 3 units. 3/7 of the distance is 240 kilometers, right? So 3 units is 240 kilometers. So 1 unit is going to be what? 240 divided by 3, which is 80 kilometers. So now you can calculate 7 units, which is total distance. 80 times 7, 560 kilometers. That is the total distance covered. Now we put it all together to find the answer. And remember to add the 30-minute rest time. So in average, if you're going to calculate average speed, you've got to include the rest time as well. So total distance traveled is 560 560 kilometers. That is total distance. What about total time taken? Let's calculate that one. First part of the journey was 2.5 hours, plus the half an hour rest time, plus 3 hours for the second part of the journey. Total time taken is 6 hours. Now average speed is total distance over total time. Total distance over total time, that is average speed. So 560 over 6. Do the math and you get 93 1/3 kilometers per hour. And that is your final answer. Don't forget the units. Okay, 93 1/3 kilometers per hour. Well done.
Excellent work, everybody. Speed lesson 2 completed. Give yourselves a round of applause. Go ahead and attempt the quiz. Go score.